Ladies and gentlemen, a separation of witness order was granted in this case. The purpose of a separation order is so that the witness cannot hear the testimony of other witnesses, review evidence admitted during the trial, and tailor their testimony accordingly. This case has gotten extensive news coverage and has been live streamed by the local news networks. The next witness the state of Ohio is calling and rebuttal came forward after watching portions of the testimony, viewing evidence, and watching news coverage. The witness posted and then deleted certain statements on social media concerning the case. The witness also deleted their Facebook account. You may consider these factors when determining this witness's credibility. You are the sole judges of the credibility of this witness, and you will determine the weight of the testimony. It is your duty to decide what testimony to believe and what testimony not to believe. You can call your next witness.
Before that, there is a stipulation.
Okay, you can.
Thank you, Your Honor. The parties have the following stipulation to read to the jury, and it goes as follows. The parties agree that State's Exhibit number 32 is an authentic copy of GPS location records of Christopher Korn's van on December 4th, 2020, kept in the ordinary course of business of Franklin Heating, Cooling, and Refrigeration. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Little maze around here. You need to come around. You raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury your testimony in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have a seat. Pull yourself up close to the microphone. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, I'll start by asking you to please say and spell your name.
Christopher Korn. It's Christopher. Last name Korn, Corne.
What do you do for a living?
I'm HVAC.
Where do
Heating
you work?
Franklin Heating, Cooling, and Refrigeration.
Where is that company located?
Groveport, Ohio.
How long have you worked there?
10 years.
And what position do you have there?
Service manager.
Have you held any other positions at Franklin Heating and Cooling?
Just a regular service tech.
And how long were you a service tech there?
9 years.
So in the past year, that's when you became a service manager?
Yes.
Do you use a company vehicle for your job?
Yes.
What kind of vehicles does the company use for the work?
Most of our vehicles are vans.
Are they marked for the company?
Yes, they have our company logo on the side of them.
And were you working back on December 4th of 2020?
Yes.
And what were you doing that day?
I was running a service call on Case Road.
Was that the only service call you had, or were there other locations?
I had multiple locations that day.
Were you driving a company vehicle that day?
Yes.
What kind of vehicle was it?
2019 GMC Savannah.
Is that a van?
Yes.
I believe you mentioned just a few moments ago that you were working in the area of Case Road.
Case Road.
What time of day were you at that job site?
I would say between 11:30 and 12:05.
And is there tracking information that the company keeps of the vehicles and what you all are up to in your work?
Yes,
And are you familiar with those records and how they work?
a little bit, yes.
And are you familiar with the record of your work back on December 4th of 2020?
Yes.
Hold on one moment. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Sir, I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification purposes as state business history. Please take a look at that document and let me know when you're ready.
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
It's my GPS log for the day of December 4th, 2020.
And what record does it have for this Case Road job site that you were describing a moment ago?
It shows I was there for a total of 27 minutes, and I believe I left that location at 12:07. I arrived at that location at 11:40.
Regarding the times, do you mean 11:40 a.m. you arrived there?
I did. I arrived there at 11:40 a.m. and left at 12:07, according to my GPS.
So you left that location around 12:07 p.m. Was that because you had finished the job at that particular site?
Correct.
And what were you going to do next after finishing up the job?
Usually at around that time, I'll stop and grab a sandwich and head on to my next call.
Do you recall the route you took leaving the Case Road site to take your lunch and then go to the next place?
I know when I left Case Road, I made my way to Ferris and then down Ferris toward Carl Road.
And when you were at Ferris and Carl, was there anything that caught your attention in that area that day?
Oh, yes.
Will you please tell us about that?
So I was sitting at the intersection of Carl and Ferris. I noticed a car come around the corner, and the person was driving a little erratic, what appeared to be dancing in his car and singing with music.
And in addition to that car, you said driving erratic. Were there any other vehicles that caught your attention at the intersection?
There was a pickup truck in front of me, and I noticed, after the car had passed and made its way down the road, he started making a U-turn in the intersection.
With respect to this pickup truck, when did that vehicle first catch your attention?
The pickup truck?
Yes.
It wasn't until he was moving in the middle of the intersection.
Okay. So you said that you saw a pickup truck and then another vehicle driving in the intersection that caught your attention. Is this the intersection of Carl and Ferris?
Yes, sir.
So where were you at the intersection when you noticed this other vehicle driving that caught your attention?
Where was I in the van?
Yeah. Were you at the intersection, far away from the
I was
intersection?
just pulling up to the intersection, coming to a stop.
How many cars were in front of you as you approached the intersection of Ferris and Carl?
Just the one,
That being
the pickup truck.
you said there was a car making a turn that caught your attention?
Yes.
What did the car look like?
It was just a little dark-colored car.
And what turn was it making exactly?
So it was making a left off of Carl Road onto Ferris.
What about that turn or what that car was doing caught your attention?
I just noticed the driver moving around pretty erratic, and at one point in time, he took both hands off the wheel and was dancing and moving, and it looked like he was going to come into my vehicle.
Do you recall how big this car was?
It was a small car.
Do you recall the color at all?
It was a dark color. I thought it was gray.
How did that car's size compare to the van that you were driving that afternoon?
It was a lot smaller than my van.
Could you tell in watching that car go by you whether your van sat higher at the same level or lower than the little car?
I was a little bit higher looking into the vehicle.
Could you tell whether that little vehicle going by and making the turn had any tinting in the windows?
No, there wasn't no tint on the windows.
Was there any tint to the windows of your van?
No.
And in looking in the car, you described to the jurors a moment ago that it looked like the person inside was dancing. Could you tell what that person looked like at all?
He was African American, and I just remember he had a big afro, and it was pulled back behind him, and that's basically what I remember about him.
And you said there was a moment when his hands weren't on the wheel?
Yes,
How well could you see his hands?
pretty good.
Could you see anything in his hands at all?
No, nothing at all.
Could you see anything inside the car that caught your attention?
No.
Could you see anything on his facial expressions that he was doing that afternoon?
Looked like he was singing. He was moving his mouth.
And did you see any other movement by this driver other than the hands moving and the fact that it looked like he was singing?
I mean, he had body movement with the hands, which correlated to me that he was dancing.
Was anything about this car and the individual driving the car, did anything about that cause you concern?
Yes, I thought he was driving recklessly.
And when did you first notice this vehicle? Did you see it coming from Carl or later?
It was until he come around the front of the pickup truck when I noticed him.
Did you ever make eye contact with the driver of the vehicle?
Yes.
Explain.
About the time he come right past me, he was just looking right at me.
Do you recall what his facial expression was when he looked at you?
He had one hand up in the air like he was singing or something like that toward me. I didn't know for sure.
Could you tell anything about his demeanor?
No, I mean, just whatever he was listening to, he was getting into it.
Was there anything in the hand that he was holding up?
No,
Did you ever see a gun inside that vehicle?
no.
After the little dark car made the turn and went past you, what happened next?
So both trucks made the U-turn and went back behind me the other way, and I kind of watched them in my mirror to see which way they went. And when the light turned green, I turned on the Carl Road and found the first spot to turn around and followed them back.
Now, you said something interesting there. I heard you say both trucks, and I think just a moment ago you were telling us about a truck in front of you, a little car making the turn. So tell us about, it sounds like there was a second truck there?
So there was a truck behind me also. When I noticed the pickup truck in front of me making the turn, it kind of stopped at the truck behind me. And when I was looking at them, that's when I noticed the lights on the pickup truck, and that's when I realized that it was law enforcement.
When you say notice lights on pickup truck, do you recall whether those lights were illuminated?
For a short time while they was turning around.
Did they continue to remain illuminated?
I don't remember.
Where were those lights that you're describing on the pickup truck that did that turn around?
It seems like I thought they was actually in the taillights of the truck.
And again, you're describing the truck that was in front of you. This is the one that did the U-turn and you noticed lights on the back of it.
Yeah, it was either in the taillights or they might have been in the back window, but I definitely seen lights.
Upon seeing the truck in front of you do the U-turn and stop at the truck behind you, what did you do next?
That's when I tried to figure out what was going on, and I turned on the Carl and made the U-turn and came back.
Why were you interested in what the trucks were doing?
I had a few minutes of time on my hands and wanted to go back and see what was going on.
So how were you able to watch where the trucks went, given that the one in front of you did a U-turn to go the opposite direction?
Well, the one behind me did the exact same thing, but he just backed up and turned around. So I was watching out of my side view mirror on the van.
Did you continue to drive your van as these trucks were changing their direction?
I was still stopped at the light.
And were you able to see where the trucks went?
Yes.
Where did they go?
In my rear view mirror, they made a right-hand turn onto Ferris Road. Or, I'm sorry, Estates Place. We was on Ferris.
What did you do after you saw the trucks go down Estates Place?
I made a left-hand turn on Carl.
And then what did you do?
I made an immediate left into a apartment complex, I believe, and backed out on the Carl Road and went back to the intersection.
So which way did you have to turn on Carl to get back?
So when I backed out, I would have been going back north on Carl.
Back to where you were.
Yes,
And then after you, so you went to Carl and Ferris?
yes, and then I made a right onto Ferris and went down to Estates and made another right.
After you turned on Estates, what did you see?
I could see the two trucks that I noticed was all the way at the end of the road. So I drove up about as close as I could get, and I pulled over to the right-hand side.
How close could you get to the two trucks at the end of Estates Place?
I was probably within 2 to 3 houses of the actual corner of the road.
Did you see anyone around by the trucks?
When I first pulled up, no, I did not.
Did you see anything going on with the trucks? Like, were they running? Like, what, did you notice anything about the trucks?
The one truck was sitting with the driver's side door open.
Did the other truck have any doors open?
I couldn't see it. It was actually in front of the other one.
Did you see any lights on the trucks?
No.
And you said you stopped about 2 houses up from the end of the intersection of Estates and that end road.
Yes.
Was that end road? Was that Case?
Yes.
So after you stopped, did you see anything else besides the 2 vehicles as you've just described?
While I was sitting there, I noticed I attracted some attention from the house that I was in front of, so I started to back up down the road.
What do you mean by attracted attention? What did you see?
There was just people in the window looking at me like I didn't know what was going on, so I just backed up and got out of there.
Did you see anything else?
No.
Did you see any law enforcement individuals by the trucks?
At one time, someone come running out to the truck with the door open, and it looked like he might have been using the radio or something.
Did that person who ran up to the door of the truck, were they wearing anything that looked like it was law enforcement related?
It did look like he had a vest on. It might have said police on it.
Did this individual have a weapon?
Yes.
Can you describe it?
Looked like a assault rifle.
How was this person wearing the assault rifle?
It looked like it was just hanging over his neck with a strap or something.
At the time that you're seeing this, could you hear anything?
No.
Did you eventually hear anything?
As I was backing up, I rolled down the window of the truck, and I heard sirens coming from every direction I could possibly think of.
How loud was that sound?
The sirens?
Yes.
They was getting louder as I was backing up.
It sounded like there was more than one.
Oh, absolutely.
Now you mentioned you're hearing this, so then what did you do next? Is this about the time that you left that area?
Yes.
So I want to show you a couple things. That you may have seen before. So do you recall before coming and testifying to the jury this morning, looking at a couple USB drives?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach? May I approach?
Are they marked for the exhibit?
They are marked with exhibit stickers. It's going to be State's Exhibit 34 and State's Exhibit 35.
Any objection?
No objection.
Babe, approved.
Sir, I'm handing you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 34 and 35. And then those are the USB drives I mentioned a moment ago.
Yes.
And did you review the contents of those USB drives before coming to court today?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you explain to the jurors what you saw on the USB drives?
I saw my truck go by at the scene.
The scene of this incident that you've been testifying to
Yeah,
the
it
jury
was,
about.
it was at the intersection, yes.
And had you seen these videos before?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jurors when you first saw video of the intersection?
When the FBI showed it to me.
Had you seen video of the intersection before the FBI showing it to you?
Yes.
Can you please explain to the jurors the circumstances of when you first saw video of the intersection?
When I first saw the video, it was when it was aired onto the news, and I saw my van go by.
And when did you see that news clip?
I'm not 100% sure. It's been quite a few days.
Was that this year or
Yeah,
earlier?
it was definitely this year.
Okay. And how long of the video clip did you see?
Not much, just enough to see my van there.
And what part of the incident did you see of your van at the intersection?
What do you mean, what part?
Like the beginning when you're approaching the trucks or another part?
When I was approaching and when I was sitting at the intersection, and I believe it even shows me coming back.
Now, is that what you saw in the news or is that what you saw later?
What I saw later.
Okay, and then what you saw later, was that, did that show all of the circumstances that you've testified and described to the jury of where you were driving that day?
Yes.
And did the video of the intersections fairly and accurately depict the scene as you saw it that day?
Yes.
And with respect to the exhibits that I presented you, State's Exhibits 34 and 35, are those fair and accurate copies of the surveillance video clips that you've seen?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I publish?
No objection.
You may.
So first, I will start with State's Exhibit 34. Yeah, I'm waiting until it's loaded, so I'm not. Okay. So for the record, the video is loaded and it's at the very beginning, but I'm going to advance in the timestamp to about 9 minutes and 10 seconds. So, sir, I've advanced it to timestamp. It's 9:04 video time, and I'm going to start playing the video. And when I start playing the video, if you could please first identify, or rather identify to the jurors the vehicles you were describing that day, okay? Once we start the video.
So that looks like the first truck at Estates Place pulling out onto Ferris now. And there's my van coming in the site now. And then there's the second truck pulling out behind me. And there's Casey Gooden Jr. passing me, turning on the Estates Place. And there's the officer going back. There's the second one. And there's my van going back to Estates Place.
I'm going to pause it for a moment. Sir, I forgot to ask, when you were describing leaving Estates Place, when you heard the sirens, how did you get out of there to go on to your next job site? Do you recall?
So I believe I backed up for a few houses until I found a driveway to turn around in. And then as I was coming out, I thought I had came all the way to the end of the road, but apparently I couldn't get there, so I went down the side street and circled back around.
And once you took the side street, what do you mean by circle back around? Where did you go after you were able to get out of the neighborhood?
I came back by the intersection one last time before I left the area.
Intersection of?
Estates Place and Carl.
Okay, so you had to go down and,
Or actually, that's Estates and Ferris.
okay. So you were back at the intersection you were at before, Ferris
yes.
and Carl?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to advance the video some minutes to about 17:15. If you just watch here and tell us whether you recognize any of the vehicles going by.
So that looks like my van coming back in the picture now.
What happened as you passed Estates? Did you notice anything?
I looked down the road and seen all the flashing lights.
Okay. Next, I want to publish with the court's permission State's Exhibit 35.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have to hit a button on here. Let me show you.
All right, sir. If you would just turn your attention again to the screen, do you recognize this scene?
Yes.
What is it?
This is back at the intersection of Ferris and Carl.
Keep your
Gonna
voice
walk-
up so everyone can hear.
It's the intersection of Ferris and Carl.
I want to walk you through the video like what we did with the view of Ferris and Estates Place. So I'll advance the video to about 9 minutes. And as the video plays, if you would please identify any vehicles you recognize from the account that you gave the jurors some moments ago about what you saw that day.
There's the first pickup truck. And that's me pulling up behind it. And then right about now is when I was seeing Goodson's car pass me. And then it looks like the truck's in the intersection turning around. And he stopped. I talked to the guy that was behind me. Now he's turning around. And I just made the left on the Carl Road. And there's my truck just coming back around the corner.
Okay, I'm going to pause the video for the record, and then I'm going to move it up to
What number
about,
did you pause it at? 11, 12?
yes, I paused it at 11 minutes and 12 seconds. And I'm going to resume the video at 17 minutes. Again, when I resume the video, sir, same procedure. If you could watch and identify for the jurors any vehicles you recognize.
There's my van again.
Where are you going?
That must have been when I was headed out of the area. Back at the same light we started at.
Stopping the video at 17:51. That's all I have for the video, sir, but I do have some more questions if you just let me take this off the screen. Okay. Sir, that day, after you left the area of States and Case, did you know what happened at the end of the street there?
I did not.
Did you eventually receive information as to what happened there at the corner of Estates Place and Case Road on December 4th, 2020?
I only learned what had happened until I had watched the news that night.
That night of Friday, December 4th, 2020?
Yes.
Upon hearing that news, how did it affect you?
Objection.
Sustain.
Upon hearing the news, did that affect your memory of the incident?
No.
Approach. Overruled, you can answer.
What was the question?
The question was, sir, upon hearing the news of what happened December 4th, 2020 at the intersection there of Estates Place and Carl Road, did that affect your memory of what you had seen that afternoon?
No.
Did you have any sort of impression about it? Did it stick out in your mind?
I mean, it did stick out in my mind because I knew I was there that day.
And after making that connection, did you have contact with law enforcement about what you saw?
No.
Did you eventually have contact with law enforcement about what you saw?
Not until here recently.
So you're saying that from December of 2020 until 2024, nobody contacted you about this?
Correct.
Have you spoken with any witnesses in this case?
No.
Have you spoken with any members or representatives of the defendant, Michael Jason Meade's family?
No.
Have you spoken with Mr. Meade's attorneys?
I haven't spoken personally. I tried to reach out through a series of messages that was unsuccessful.
Series of messages about what you saw?
I didn't say anything about what I saw. I just said I might have information or something.
Can you talk to the jurors about that, about when you came forward within?
May we approach?
You may. That objection will be sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Okay.
Sir, let me ask you a better question. I was asking you about contact with various individuals concerning this case. You're beginning to explain to the jury about that, and I want to ask, who did you reach out to with respect to what you had seen at the intersection on December 4th of 2020?
I think my first instant message was to Mrs. Payne and then another one to her attorney.
When did these occur?
I believe they started a little over a week ago, maybe give or take.
Did you receive any responses from either Ms. Payne or Ms. Payne's attorney?
No.
Did you eventually get a response from somebody concerning what your account was of this incident back on December 4th of 2020?
Mr. Merkel called me and questioned me.
Okay, and when did Mr. Merkel's contacting you, when did that follow in the sequence of events of you contacting Ms. Payne and the family's attorney?
It was the same day I contacted the family's attorney.
But you're saying that you didn't hear from the family or the family's attorney, you just heard from the state's attorney?
Correct.
And after you spoke with the state's attorney, did you speak with any law enforcement about your account of what you saw on December 4th of 2020?
Only when I was interviewed with the FBI.
And what I want to talk to, you had mentioned sending instant messages. Are you describing using like a phone or social media to contact or make statements about what you saw on the day of the incident?
Yes.
And can you explain just generally any prior statements you made about the incident on social media or a text message.
Meaning what?
Not saying what the statements, but were you posting online about what you saw?
I never posted about what I saw. Well, I made a statement on one of them.
Okay, and what was that, the general nature of that statement? Not exactly what you said, but what was kind of the subject matter of it?
Basically that was me on the video footage, and I didn't see a gun.
And then did you have a Facebook account earlier this year?
Yes,
And how long had you had the Facebook account?
a long time.
What is the status of your Facebook account?
I deleted it
Can you explain to the jurors why you deleted your Facebook account?
because I just got random friend requests from people that I didn't know, over 100 friend requests in one day.
When did that occur?
On last Friday, I believe, the day that the media released my name to the public.
Did you want those friend requests or to connect with those people?
No.
Thank you so much, sir. That's all the questions I have for you.
Does council want to approach without stuttering?